They treated me like wallpaper, always there, never noticed. My brother was their golden god. Now that he's fallen from grace and I'm successful, they're suddenly remembering I exist. But I haven't forgotten anything. I don't remember when I first realized I was invisible. It wasn't like a switch flipped, no loud moment, no shattering event. It was a slow, creeping realization, like a room dimming without anyone turning off the lights. My name is Sana. I'm 32 now, living a life I built brick by painful brick. But back then, in that cramped little house with peeling wallpaper and my mother's sharp tongue, I was just the girl, not the daughter, not their pride, just their. My brother, Ian, was 4 years older than me, and from the moment I was old enough to understand words, I heard only praise for him. Look at Ian's report card. Ian got first position again. Ian is so responsible. Even if I brought home straight A's, the most I get was, that's how it should be. No hug, no smile, just expectation without affection. I used to sit by the door every evening, waiting for my father to come home. I practiced what I'd say. Little things, how I painted a bird in art class, or that I learned how to ride my bicycle without training wheels. But the moment he stepped in, it was like I didn't exist. Where's Ian? He'd ask. Did he eat? Is he studying? I was always second. Actually, I wasn't even that. I was an afterthought. One time, I scored full marks on a science quiz. I was so excited. I held my paper tight in my little hands and ran home, imagining Mom would put it on the fridge, like she did with Ian's certificates. She barely glanced at it and said, "Make sure Ian eats before he studies. He has a test tomorrow." I remember how that paper crumpled in my fist, how the edges cut into my palm as I stood there, forgotten. I learned early that love in our house was conditional, and I didn't meet the conditions. Ian wasn't cruel, at least not at first. He was just used to being adored. He basked in it, thrived in it. He didn't notice me because no one else did, and I didn't blame him. Not then, but things shifted in our teens. Ian became arrogant, entitled, and careless. He lied to my parents, skipped tuition, sneak out at night. Once, he even totaled my dad's car. But somehow, it was never his fault. "You push him too hard," Mom would say, crying. "He's under stress," Dad would add. And me? I was the unpaid therapist, the ghost sibling tasked with picking up the emotional debris they left behind. Meanwhile, I worked hard, really hard. Maybe I thought if I became perfect, they'd see me. I got into a prestigious university on scholarship, worked part-time jobs, never asked for a penny. When I left for college, no one cried, no one fussed, no goodbye dinner, no framed photos, just a rush, distracted, "Okay, take care." I cried on the bus alone. College was the first time I felt human. I made friends who actually liked hearing about my day, professors who noticed my work, a roommate who hugged me when I aced my exams. It was foreign, beautiful, but foreign. And then, I started building my life. I got a job straight out of college, nothing glamorous, just a content writing gig, but it paid the bills. Over time, I climbed the ladder quietly, steadily. I saved, invested, made smart decisions. Eventually, I started a small digital agency of my own. No one in my family asked what I was doing. No calls, no visits, not even on birthdays. But it was okay. I told myself I didn't need them. Then, last year, Ian's world came crashing down. He married young, to a girl named Nita, pretty, sweet, and soft-spoken for someone like him. Everyone thought it was a perfect match to golden children, born for greatness. But beneath the surface, things were unraveling. Ian had quit his corporate job to start a business, a luxury watch resale venture. It sounded like a scam from the start. I heard whispers from distant cousins, Facebook posts, photos of him in designer clothes, luxury cars, but none of it felt real. Turns out, it wasn't. He borrowed money from relatives, investors, even some shady lenders. He promised quick returns, luxury lifestyles. And when the market turned, the whole thing collapsed. He was broke. Worse, he was in debt. And that's when I got the first call from my mother. I hadn't heard her voice in almost 2 years. She didn't ask how I was, didn't say she missed me, just went straight into it. "Sana Beta, Ian is in trouble. He needs help." I remember sitting in my office chair, stunned. I actually laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so expected. Of course, I didn't exist until I was needed. "I don't have money to give him," I said flatly. She sounded offended. "We raised you. At least have some decency." Those words hit like a punch. Raised me. You ignored me. You invalidated me. You made me feel like love was a reward I never earned. I didn't say that. Not yet. Instead, I ended the call. But they didn't stop. Dad called next. His tone was stern, like I was an employee who'd failed to do her duty. Your brother is drowning in debt. People are threatening him. You want him to die. I stayed silent. You're doing well, aren't you? He added. You live in a nice apartment, surely. You can spare a few lakhs for your brother. It wasn't a question. It was a demand. A subtle guilt trip wrapped in fatherly concern. But what about the years I needed them? When I was eating instant noodles 5 nights a week to make rent. When I worked at jobs and cried into my pillow from exhaustion. Where were they then? I knew this was a defining moment. I could cave, like always. I could try to earn the love they never freely gave. Or I could say no. I chose the second option. I'm sorry, I said. I can't help you. Dad's voice turned cold. So you're punishing your brother for our mistakes now? I said quietly. I'm finally choosing myself. He hung up without another word. That night, I cried. Not because I felt guilty, but because it was the first time I'd stood up for myself. And it felt both terrifying and freeing. A few days later, Ian himself reached out. He came to my office unannounced. Walked in like he owned the place. Same arrogant swagger. Though now with a hint of desperation in his eyes. Sana, he said. Arms open like we were long-lost friends. You look good. This place is amazing. I didn't smile. He sat down, across from me, helping himself to water, and started spinning his sob story. I listened. Not because I cared about his excuses, but because I wanted to finally see the man behind the mask. Turns out, he wasn't evil, just entitled. A product of their one-sided love. I made mistakes, he admitted, but I need a second chance. Why? Come to me, I asked. You never cared before. He had the audacity to chuckle. Because you always had your head on straight. You were always the smart one. The irony burned. You used to act like I didn't exist. That's not true. Yes, it is, I snapped. You were the king. I was the shadow. And now that your crown is broken, you want the shadow to save you? He looked wounded. For the first time, genuinely unsure of what to say, I stood up. I'm sorry you're going through this, but I can't carry the weight of your choices, Sana. Please, no. This is where I draw the line. He left, silent, not angry, not pleading, just stunned. And for once, I felt seen by myself. But that wasn't the end of it. Not even close. The days that followed were eerily silent. No more calls, no text, not even a passive-aggressive forwarded WhatsApp message from Mom. Part of me thought maybe they'd finally understood my stance, finally accepted that I wasn't going to be their emotional and financial backup plan. But I should have known better. The silence wasn't acceptance. It was strategy. About a week later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Ian's wife. We had barely spoken, more than a few words over the years. But now, her voice trembled as she said, Sana, can we please meet, just us? I agreed, curious and cautious. We met at a quiet cafe near my office. She looked worn down like someone who had cried more than she had slept. Her hands shook as she stirred her untouched coffee. I know Ian came to you, she began. He didn't tell me everything, but I know he asked for money. I nodded. Yes, I told him no. She didn't look surprised. If anything, she looked relieved. I wouldn't have blamed you if you had slammed the door on his face. Then she said something that chilled me. Sana, I think you need to know what your parents are hiding. I sat up straight. What do you mean? She looked around nervously, then leaned in. Ian didn't just lose money. He lost control over everything. His business wasn't just a flop, it was a front. He was laundering money for someone. He didn't even understand it fully until it was too late. And when things blew up, he begged your parents for help. My stomach dropped. Laundering? For who? She shook her head. He won't say, he's scared. But your parents, they covered it up. Sold family jewelry. Took out secret loans. And now, they're trying to pin some of the debt on you. What? I almost shouted. She handed me a folder. Inside were scanned papers. Falsified bank documents with my name on them. Fake signatures. Fake loans. My name tied to transactions. I had never authorized. My parents had used my identity to apply for credit. I tried to stop them, she said, tears spilling over. But they said you owed Ian this much that it was the least you could do. I told them it was fraud. They didn't care. I was frozen. Not only had they ignored me all my life, not only had they made me feel unworthy, small, unseen, but now, they were trying to drag me into their pit of lies. I didn't even know what to say. I just stared at the papers in my hands, heart pounding. This wasn't just betrayal. This was criminal. Why are you telling me this? I asked, voice hoarse. She looked down. Because I can't do it anymore. I have a son now. I can't raise him in this toxicity. And because you deserve to know. I thanked her quietly. I could see the guilt and exhaustion in her eyes. And in that moment, I didn't hate her. She had married into a firestorm she didn't cause. At night, I went home and locked my doors, double-checked every account I had, called my bank, froze my credit, and started contacting lawyers. I knew this wouldn't be easy. My parents weren't the type to back down quietly. But I wasn't the same scared, ignored girl anymore. I was done being quiet. The next morning, I marched into my parents' home. They looked surprised to see me. Mom's single quotes. Expression flickered between guilt and annoyance. You should have called. Dad just folded his arms. So, you've come to your senses. I pulled out the documents and slammed them on the dining table. Explain this. The air shifted instantly. Mom's eyes widened. Dad's jaw tightened. That's not what it looks like, he muttered. Really? Because it looks like you committed fraud. You're our daughter, Mom snapped. Everything we have is yours too. What's the problem? The problem, I hissed, is that you used my name without permission. You forged my signature. You put my future, my credit, my entire life at risk. After ignoring me for years, now you're willing to destroy me for Ian. My mother's voice rose. How dare you speak to us like this? We sacrificed everything for you. No, you sacrificed everything for him. I shouted. You ignored me, belittled me, erased me, and now you want to destroy me just to keep propping up your failure of a son. The room fell silent. Dad stood up, breathing heavily. Don't talk about your brother like that. He's still family. So am I said. But you never treated me like it. They didn't deny it. Not even once. I turned to leave. You'll regret this, my father muttered. I stopped at the door. No, I've regretted staying quiet for too long. That ends now. I walked out without looking back. The days that followed were chaos. Legal notices, angry phone calls, veiled threats. My mother even came to my office once, causing a scene in the lobby, crying and screaming that I was tearing the family apart. I didn't flinch. My lawyer advised me to file a police complaint. We started collecting evidence, text from my parents, timelines, even need a statement. It was painful, exhausting, but necessary. And amid it all, something strange happened. I started to heal. Not completely, not yet. But every boundary I drew, every truth I spoke aloud, it took a piece of the pain away. One afternoon, I got a message from Ayan. Just 5 words. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. Because whether he knew or not didn't change. What had happened? They had chosen him over and over and over. And now, I was choosing me. Months passed. The legal process moved slowly, as it always does, but bit by bit. Truth peeled back the layers of lies. The loans they'd taken out in my name, fraudulent. The banks backed off once my lawyer presented the evidence. My digital trail was clean, timestamps, signatures, all proved the applications weren't mine. But even though I wasn't financially ruined, I was still emotionally scorched. Every day felt like limping through ash, unsure of what parts of my past were still standing. My parents tried to play both sides. First, they denied everything. Then they begged. When that didn't work, they sent relatives to guilt me. One of my uncles came to my apartment, uninvited, furious. So, you're dragging your parents to court. You think you're some Western feminist now? No. I didn't think I was anything. I just knew what I wasn't anymore. I wasn't a doormat. I wasn't their silent scapegoat. And I wasn't going to let them write the final chapter of my story. A few weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It was Ian. Sana, please don't hang up. I just wanted to talk. Not to ask for anything, I swear. I want to say I'm sorry for everything. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I do. I stared at my phone for a long time after that. Replayed the message again and again. Did I believe him? I didn't know. But for the first time, his voice didn't drip with entitlement. There was something else, fragility. Regret, still. I didn't call back. I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. The court hearing was short. My parents, advised by their lawyer, offered to settle privately. They'd pay damages, withdraw all false claims, and issue a signed statement clearing my name. I agreed. Not for them, for myself. I didn't want to keep fighting these people who had never once fought for me. After the settlement, I walked out of the courthouse into the pouring rain. And I cried. Right there on the steps. Not because I was sad, but because I finally felt free. It was over. But healing, that was only beginning. In the months that followed, I started therapy. And in one of my early sessions, my therapist asked, "What do you want from them now?" I stared out the window for a long time before answering. Nothing. And I meant it. I didn't want apologies, or reconciliation, or validation. I just wanted peace, and peace doesn't come from others. It comes from within. Then something happened that I didn't expect. Nita reached out again. She'd left Ian, moved in with her parents, filed for separation. She told me she found work as a teacher, and that her son, my nephew, was turning 5 soon. "I'd like him to meet you," she said, shyly, "if you'd be okay with that." I didn't answer right away. I wasn't sure, but a week later, I met them at a quiet park. He was a bright little boy with huge eyes and the same messy hair Ian had. As a kid, "Are you really my Ani?" he asked, wide-eyed. I nodded. "I guess I am." He grinned and ran off to the swings. Nita and I sat in silence for a while. Then she whispered, "Thank you for standing up, for not letting them turn you bitter. You gave me the strength to leave." I looked at her surprised. I wasn't trying to be anyone's example. I know. That's what made it powerful. I still get messages from my parents sometimes. My birthday. Occasional forwarded prayers with captions like "Family is everything." I don't reply. Not out of spite, but because that chapter is closed. Forgiveness? Maybe someday. But forgetting? Never. I carry the lessons with me every day. That love should never be begged for. That family isn't who raises you, it's who sees you. And that survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about learning to live. Today, my agency is thriving. I mentor young girls, especially those from toxic family systems, teaching them how to find their voice, how to walk away, how to rebuild. And every time I see one of them rise, I feel a little piece of me heal. To those watching this wondering if cutting off family makes you heartless, let me say this: you are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to walk away from people who never truly saw you. You are allowed to choose yourself. Not every story has a happy ending with hugs and reunions. Some stories end with silence. And that silence, sometimes, it's the loudest freedom of all.